The Might and Magic series is considered a classic for many CRPG gaming enthusiasts of the 90s, combining a first-person perspective with party building, dungeon crawling, and an open world with non-linear progression set the stage for what many RPGs have done going forward. With the series having a total of 10 titles all the way from 1986 to 2014, there's quite a bit to choose from as the definitive title. For many, it falls with 1998's iteration with Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven. While it is certainly a strong contender, my favorite has always been Might and Magic 8, Day of the Destroyer. Even though it does use the same engine of 6, there are so many unique features that make it stand out amongst many others in the series. Before we begin with this retrospective / review, I do want to mention that I was having quite a bit of graphical glitches when recording the footage. The characters in this overworld had the wrong color hue on them. This seems to be common on modern machines, so do keep that in mind if you end up experiencing something like this. With that said, let's take a look at Might and Magic 8, Day of the Destroyer. So when you start the game, you can create your one and only character. This is a stark contrast to basically every other Might and Magic game where you create your entire 4-person party. Instead, you'll start off with one character and must recruit other characters throughout your journey. I should also note that the max party size has increased from 4 to 5. I like this change as it allows for a ton of flexibility to swap out party members. You're no longer stuck with your initial party and don't have to suffer the consequences of making a bad party. There's also quite a unique set of characters you can play, including trolls, dark elves, vampires, necromancers, minotaur, and even dragons of all things. Dragons are the only race you cannot initially pick, and we will discuss that later in this review. For now, we will start with Bobbus the Troll, who will start with the mace, regeneration, bow, and repair item skills. And now we begin our quest on Daggerwound Islands, where it is currently being attacked by a group of pirates. While I can be the big strong troll and try to take them all on, it's probably best to talk to some NPCs and get the lay of the land. The first move I would recommend, however, is to go to the inn and fill out the party. To begin with, there are only 2 people we can add at the moment: Devlin Arcanus the Necromancer and Elsbeth Lamentia the Vampire. Since both specialize in different schools of magic, they will be integral to providing ranged and magic support. For better or for worse, the Might and Magic series is very old school in its approach. While this can be seen as a tutorial island of sorts, there really isn't any tutorial to speak of, as the game tosses you right in for you to figure your way out through it. Thankfully, you can always talk to NPCs and get the lay of the land. Important NPCs will be found within buildings where they will give you quests to complete. Ultimately, we need to get out of Daggerwound's Islands and head to Ravenshore to warn them of the incoming cataclysm. While you don't need to complete every quest on this island, I do recommend exploring as much as you can and collecting as much loot to sell for that cash money, boy. And once you do leave Daggerwound's Islands, the game opens up tremendously, and it's ultimately up to you where you want to go next. Sure, your goal is to follow the main storyline, which involves making alliances to unite against the cataclysm, but there is just so much to do and discover. Most modern open world games tend to region lock players based on progression. Might and Magic 8, however, allows you to basically travel wherever the heck you want. If you want to travel to different towns and areas, you can absolutely do that as long as you have enough food supplies. You can take the long way and try to make most of these areas, or take a caravan or ship to get there faster depending on their schedule. Even though there isn't a modern fast travel system, you can run forever and even more with the discovery of certain spells. And if you're tired of exploring dungeons and completing quests, you can just say screw it and spend the rest of your lives in the tavern playing Acro Mage. If you're a fan of 1v1 card games, Acro Mage is one that you should definitely try out. In this game, you and your opponent start out with a castle and some resources. Your goal is to build your castle to a certain amount, reach a certain amount of a singular resource, or destroy your opponent's castle. Even though there isn't any deck construction here, it is still a highly addicting game trying to figure out the best strategy to win. Heck, there's even a side quest to win Acro Mage at all the taverns in the game. It's incredibly fun and worth trying at least once. My only request is there to be a re-release of the separate standalone Acro Mage game on GOG. That would be an easy purchase for me. Alright, so we are getting a bit sidetracked here talking about the sheer amount of content in Might and Magic 8. Instead, let's focus on what you'll be doing for the majority of the game, and that is the combat. Combat can either be played in real time or in a turn-based faction. With just a push of a button, you can quickly switch between the two. You'll have a button for attack, a button to use your quick spell, and can open up your inventory to use any scrolls or potions. In the early game, I recommend sticking with turn-based combat, especially for difficult and large amounts of enemies. For late game and for easier enemies, it'll be better to stick with real time in order to quickly deal with the adversaries. The combat itself is fine on its own, but it's elevated with the various powers and spells that can be discovered. Some of the later spells especially can pretty much clear out multiple enemies at once and are great fun seeing them in action. The other part of it will be going through dungeons. Combat is obviously featured here, but this is also where you'll be introduced to many of the game's puzzles. Skills that you can learn, such as perception and disarm trap, are invaluable. Many of the dungeons include secret doors as well as various puzzles that need to be solved in order to progress. Most dungeons are pretty quick to go through compared to other games, but they are always fun seeing what lies ahead. And with all this, completing quests and killing monsters means experience points, which eventually you can pay to level up at the training grounds. Leveling up will grant skill points for you to assign to your skills. Skills themselves can be learned at inns and can be further increased by visiting the various skill trainers. As much as I understand this has always been part of the Might and Magic series, it's often part of the game I dislike the most. My biggest issue is how each town is level capped, meaning that you have to visit the correct town in order to level up at the training grounds properly. It's an old school design decision that just adds tedium, although I do like the quests that you can embark on to level up your class. One example is going from a necromancer to a lich, which is a very fun and cool transformation to see. I did mention before how we were going to talk about dragons later in this review, so let's go right ahead. Dragons are incredibly powerful as expected. New World Computing did not skimp at all in terms of what they can do. They are given an incredibly powerful dragon breath early on and can even get the ability to fly, which essentially makes traveling a breeze. Even though many see dragons as game breaking for how powerful they are in the early game, the novelty alone makes this a class I often try to add to the party. There are very few games where you can play as dragons, so I take advantage of every opportunity as much as possible. Shout out Dragon Commander as well. Now, as much as I do enjoy Magic 8 for what it is on offer, there is one big issue that becomes more apparent the longer you play. The game can be way too easy, especially for veterans of the series. Even without grabbing a dragon or using certain exploits to gain a higher level character, you start off far stronger than in previous games. You'll also get money way faster, meaning you can essentially buy many of the higher level equipment without any issue, especially with the merchant skill. Heck, you'll often end up with so much money that it's hard to even know what to spend your money on. It's why challenge runs such as having only 3 characters and not using dragons are so popular with many veterans. For how forgiving this game is, it's the only way for them to get a decent challenge. Another issue I have is just how dated this game can feel. By default, the game does not use the common WASD control scheme that is so common today. Instead, it defaults to the arrow keys to move around. While you can use the mouse to change where you are looking, it isn't always the smoothest experience as you'll need to hold down on the right mouse button. It seems like the game actively encourages the player to use page up and down to adjust where you're looking at. As someone who's played video games since the 90s, I am able to adjust with some time. However, it is never something I fully embrace. The UI itself can feel cluttered with how small of a viewing space that the player has as well. Alright, so before we wrap this game up, I do want to give a shout out to the amazing soundtrack here. Paul Romero and Rob King are absolute legends in the business, and once again do not disappoint in the slightest. Their music often elevates the experience in both Might and Magic as well as in Heroes, and this game is no exception. I especially enjoy the music found in the dungeons. Great atmospheric work here. Overall, Might and Magic 8 is still an enjoyable title, despite some of the more anachronistic elements. There is certainly a huge amount of content to explore, huge replayability, and even Acro Mage to experience. While the whole training system and controls are definitely dated, the overall fun and enjoyment is very hard to replicate. Not many games give you the ability to save the world with a troll, a necromancer, a vampire, a dragon, and a dark elf lady all in one party. That alone makes Might and Magic 8 one hell of an experience. And Acro Mage. Thank you all for watching as always, and this is Powerhouse, signing off.